Okay, everyone. Wow, what a great crew. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Then you're in the right. If not, we have a seat over here. You can stay close. Okay, welcome everyone. This is... what a lovely group. It's so good to be here. My first ever Learn It Up. It's a big moment. Don't start me, I'm getting emotional. Okay, so I created a handout every week, God willing, if we get through it. Although we don't have to stick, we can do a handout. As I say, I'm the only rabbi that gives handouts. You get that? It's a Persian joke. Gives handouts? Okay, never mind, whatever. Okay, so I like source sheets. Those people who know me, because many classes you give, but this you have something to take with you. You can take it with you, take notes. If you don't want to follow inside, it's all good. It's Hebrew, it's English. Just you know what I'm saying. I'm not making up. But I think it's important we have some model to go by, and the theme for the entire course that we're going to be doing this semester, and hopefully God willing you shall be able to join us every week, is going to be change. I'm perfect, working on character traits. Who here is perfect? It's ready. You're too quick then. A little too quick. My wife says that I'm not. But you know what? There's room for improvement. And I am very much in love with my wife. Very, very much. Baruch Hashem. So there's different forms of character. Let's start with a little bit of Hebrew. Those people who know me know that Hebrew words reveal a lot to us. The words that appear in the Torah, and even the rabbis give sometimes, teach us things in and of themselves. So what is the Hebrew word for character traits? Those people who've met me before, heard me speak, I mentioned this idea, midot. You've heard that expression before, right? Now the literal translation of the word midot, mem, dalet, vav, taf, in the plural, in the singular it's midah. What's the literal translation of the word? Measurement. To measure something, you said very good. Measurement. This table has a midah, it has a measurement. It's got a height, it's got a width, right? A person has a height, right? This person, what is their midah? 6'2". If they're Jewish, 5'3". There is a measurement. There is a measurement that comes with why, my friends. This is the big question, and is a very important introduction. Why would the word for character traits be the same as the word for a measurement? It's a very important question. Someone who hasn't heard me say this before. Why would the word for character trait be the same as the word for a measurement? What do you think? There's no wrong answers here.
I thought he was answering. That was really funny. I was gonna say maybe when you measure your body, it's an actual number that you get, and there's no way to necessarily measure your midot, your character traits in numbers, but there might be too much or too little of one, so you have to find the perfect.
Very, very good. So there's two answers. You hit the nail on the head beautifully. There's two possible ways we can look at this, and we're going to look at one this semester, but not the other. And it goes like this. You have the expression, how does that person measure up? It works in English too, right? How do you measure up as a person? So how do we measure a person's character? How they act towards other people. How they treat other people. This is really what we're looking at. Okay. You have young kids. Right? A kid walks into the house, and you're like, I have a daughter, Racheli, actually she's 20. She's in Shidduchim. If you know any guys, let me know. So when she was a young kid, she'd come to the house, and I would say, take your muddy shoes off before you walk around the house. And she'd go, yes, Abba. I come back, there's little tiny footprints of mud around the house. I'm like, Racheli? Was that you? No, Abba. We had no other kids at that point, so it had to be her, right? The kids by the way, kids are very good at taking denial, but adults are the same. It wasn't me, I didn't do that, right? We're just bigger versions. You don't realize that now. We're just big kids. You figured that out already, yeah? When you realize that's a very scary time in your life, when you realize your parents are just basically big kids who have no idea what they're doing, you know what I'm saying? When you realize that, it's scary. And so I said, why do you do that? She's like, oh, I forgot, Abba. I'm like, that's it. You are not going to college. We had a whole fund to pay for your college. Khalas, me and mommy go on vacation with your money. Is that a fair response or not a fair response? It's crazy. Why? Because the response to the crime does not measure up. Listen very carefully. Most of life and Torah and living a Jewish life is not, let's be honest, keeping Yom Kippur or cleaning up a Pesach. Those are moments and important times in the year. Most of life is, how am I going to measure my response to other people who treat me a certain way? Friends, husbands, wives. By the way, this is preparation for marriage, by the way. Or if you're in marriage, to keep you married. It's all about this. You realize that? You don't argue. Most arguments are not about, 6 hours after we eat, 3 hours meat and milk. You're arguing over, did you talk to me? Why are you looking at me like that? What can you help me with? How do you measure your response? So my daughter, I say, go to your room or clean it up or no dessert or whatever the punishment is. The punishment has to fit the crime. It's the same in life. Life, my friends, 99% of life is how I measure my response to annoying challenges that come my way every single day, every moment of every day. And this, by the way, is Judaism. It's all about this. Everything else is commentary. So we're going to take a different midah every week and work on it. And there's no perfection over here. It's hard work. And I'm going to pretend to you that I work on these things because today we're going to pick one of the biggest ones, which is anger. This is something we're all going to be dealing with for our entire lives. I'll tell you a very interesting, I think it's a midrash about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was going to meet Paro. And Paro said, before I meet Moshe, I want to send, there were people who had something called in those days, which still exists by the way, Chochmat HaPartzuf, wisdom of the face. It's actually a chapter in the Zohar I once studied. You can actually read a person's face, literally. The format will actually reveal their character. It's based upon the word panim, which is the same as panim inside. If you want to know what someone's like, my wife has this ability. She's like, I don't trust that person. I'm like, why not? It's a lovely person. She's like, nah, something wrong with their face. I'm like, nose, 2 eyes, mouth, what's the big deal? It's like, nah, something's off. You can read a face, you learn it. So it's actually a studiable skill. So he sent these people to draw a picture of Moshe Rabbeinu. It came back and Paro looked at the report and said, it can't be. This guy's got anger problems. This guy's got luck. It can't be. It doesn't make sense. This is the redeemer of the Jewish people. He said, but this is what we saw. Later, Paro met Moshe Rabbeinu and said, excuse me, I had my graphologists meet you and they said that you have this character defects. How can you be the leader of the Jewish people? You know what he said? I do. But I work on it every single day. And that's the midrash. Some people don't like that midrash. I personally love it. Because all of our Jewish heroes and heroines were normal people. They weren't super people. They definitely weren't gods, lahavdil, like Christianity. They're regular people like us, me and you, who grew up with frustrations, irritations, families, siblings, younger siblings. I'm the baby of the family, so I just annoy everybody else. But this is what we're dealing with now. Let's have a look at some sources on anger tonight. And we'll take some questions. This is interactive, so at any point you want to ask questions, doesn't matter, I'm good. The Gemara tells us about a great man called Reish Lakish. By the way, does anyone know what he used to do? Rabbi Shlomo Ben Yakish was his name. Anyone heard of him before? He was a bandit. He used to steal from people in the streets. And then he had a certain epiphany in his life. He met a certain individual, Rabbi Yochanan, who turned him around. He could actually, Rabbi Yochanan said to him, if you become a rabbi, I will let you be involved in my family, marry someone in my family. Reish Lakish was brought in as a Chozer B'Teshuvah. This is him. And he said, Ama kol adam shekoes, if you lose your temper, im chacham hu, if you're a wise person, chachmato mistaleket, you're going to become stupid. You become stupid. You lose your wisdom. Not your knowledge. You can still be smart. But wisdom, chokhmah, and knowledge, that are two different things. As we know people are really, really smart, right? Know a lot of stuff. My computer's smart. Wikipedia, right? Google whatever you want. There's no wisdom there. He says wisdom is something you have to work on. You got to work hard to keep. Im navi, and if you're a prophet, who? You lose your prophecy as well. Wow, that's a big statement. I know we don't have any prophets anymore, or as I like to say, the Jewish people are no longer a prophet organization. But it used to be the prophets, there were many of them. The Gemara says there were 1 million prophets walking around Israel. You had a problem, you got a prophet. Where are their prophecies? We don't need them anymore, the Gemara says. Their prophecies, the ones we have in Tanakh, their prophecies are needed for Acharit Yamim and the dates of Mashiach. So their prophecies we still have. But there were many of them. You had a problem, you went down the street, you met your local prophet. What's your name? I'm Shoshana, Avi. Oh, you should do this. Nevuah eventually left us. It's a big problem. But a person could lose their own Nevuah. It happened to Yaakov. Yaakov was depressed because Yosef had been taken away from him. He thought he was dead. His prophecy left him. Why? In order to have Nevuah, you needed to be happy. By the way, what was the main way you brought, as a side point, it's worth knowing this, and this could be actually one of the solutions tonight. What was the main way you brought happiness to yourself? Anyone know what they used to do? What's the symbol of King David? What's the symbol? There's one thing that symbolizes him. What is it?
Like an actual symbol?
An actual symbol, an object. An object. King David didn't have a star. The Magin David actually is just it's referring to Hashem. That star came many years later, although it's mentioned in Kabbalah and refers to God being in all directions. The harp, the kinnor, right? The harp of David. David's harp. He would put that harp in his window. The wind would come in, blow against the strings, it would wake him up. And he would study at nighttime. Why do you have to use a harp? Nice alarm clock. No, because the music made him happy. And if you want to have Nevuah, you need to be happy. And if you're angry, no Nevuah, it loses you. Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, the Gemara tells us, actually it says in Tanakh, the first time he received prophecy, he was walking along, there was a band playing music, Tanakh says this, he heard the music, he cheered up. I'm going to use that tonight. You're going to work on your anger? Sometimes listen to music. It can lift you out of your angry state. Actually, they did an experiment. I remember this as a kid. In England, they had a wall that kept being covered in graffiti. And it kept trashing this area. So one guy said, I have an idea. I think music can change it. They started to play music there 24/7. No one was there, just through a speaker. Play music, suddenly all the hooligans, no more graffiti. Because you turn up there, there's that music playing, nice, not rap music, nice music, you know what I'm saying, right? Rap music probably made more graffiti, you know what I'm talking about? It was like nice music, like classical music, Mozart, Beethoven. You never heard of these people, never mind. So they started, and it's like, and it's like, people started to, it can affect you. Very important.
Okay.
Says that, yes.
Sorry. How can common day people have Nevuah?
That's a great question. Anyone can have Nevuah. It's not limited to anyone. Shlomo Melech had it as a young boy. Nevuah is open to anyone. Kahuna, open to a Kohen. Melucha, from the tribe of Yehuda, from the line of King David. But Nevuah is open to anyone. It's a level. There were schools of prophecy. Whenever I picture, I see Hogwarts. I don't know why, but they had schools of prophecy we go to.
So if God doesn't talk back to us, how's it possible?
Now we don't have. Then they did. Now there's no one of Nevuah was removed, but it will come back. Joel is another topic when I discuss Mashiach, maybe next semester. Joel the prophet and others tell us that before Mashiach comes, we're all going to get not prophecy back. Not just a few people. Everyone. Men, women, Zekenchem, your elderly people, Banim Banot, it's going to come back again. Become a prophet organization again.
So back then, anyone could have heard God speak?
And it was a level. And there were different levels. There's levels of intelligence, those levels of prophecy, yeah. By the way, the Jewish people left Har Sinai. We became prophets. We are descendants of prophets. Every single Jew is a descendant of prophets. Yeah, 1,000%.
Why don't we have that nowadays?
Very good. It was removed. It was removed at the same time Avodah Zarah. Once Avodah Zarah had gone, the flip side was prophecy. It had to be removed as well. Really, it wasn't taken away because maybe we weren't worthy of it, but the people are not at the level to receive it. But we will be again. We'll be again. Actually, prophecy is going to return before Mashiach comes. It's coming back. And we know that because Eliyahu, Hanavi, Elijah, the prophet, first name Elijah, last name prophet, middle name he is going to come before Mashiach. But really, everyone's going to get prophecy.
So the whole reason why that story that we don't have a Beit HaMikdash is that we don't have...
No, this is after. It was destroyed, but it was after. Time of the second Beit HaMikdash, yeah. Yeah, there was some nuvuah at the beginning. Yeah.
So it wasn't because there was no self-esteem to make that.
No.
It just happened.
No.
to
There is one other thing. It's a class on prophecy now. There was one other thing, which I'll mention. In order to have prophecy, you need two things. The prophet needs to be in Israel. Only the land of Israel is powerful enough to allow prophecy to come out. There were a couple of exceptions where a person gave their nuvuah outside of Israel, like Jonah went to Nineveh. Nineveh is in modern day Iraq. Jonah, whale, fish, I'm talking about. But even he received it in Israel. And you need, this is important, you need the majority of the Jewish people living in Israel. People don't know this. Even rabbis I met didn't know this. You need the majority of the Jewish people living in the land of Israel.
Also for Mashiach.
Yeah, you need 50. By the way, where are we right now? And for Mashiach. No, Mashiach not before that.
No, I meant
In order to have prophecy. Well, you need prophecy beforehand. Yeah, but he may come and then he's going to bring them back. Kibbutz Galiot, and then prophecy returns. Yeah, en masse. Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be majority.
Everyone has to be in Israel in order for Mashiach to come. Maybe I learned that. Not from your class.
For prophecy. I mean, prophecy.
Why are we talking about prophecy?
It's interesting, but we're talking about that if a person loses their anger, because if a person was a prophet and they got angry, they lost their prophecy. That's what he says. Right? Because you have to be happy. Okay, let's see the Rambam. Says the Rambam. Yeah, okay.
We have another question. So you said in order to have nevuah, you have to be happy.
Yes.
How does that relate to us if we can't have nevuah?
Oh, very, very good. We don't have Nevuah nowadays, but in order to be a spiritual individual, right, you need to be in a state of simcha. It's connected. You're right, there's no prophecy now.
You can't be spiritual when you're upset.
Very, very difficult. Angry? No. So we'll see in a second. We're going to get more sources. Hold on, we're getting there. Says the Rambam. People who get angry all the time, the Balei Chema, right? He says they have no quality of life, says the Rambam. And Chazal, the rabbis, tell us to keep away from such individuals and keep away from anger. From all the traits that exist, every trait we're going to talk about, there's a positive and a negative application, right? Like jealousy. There's bad jealousy, which we'll talk about in the coming weeks. There's also good jealousy. Jealousy of a person's abilities. But when it comes to anger, there's very little good that comes with it. Very little. The Rambam says this midah and one other trait you should stay far away from. And what the other trait is that's actually connected to this one? Connected to anger? Ego. Ga'ava. Ego. Ego and anger together. You know what I'm talking about, right? You go somewhere like, do you know you're talking? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? How dare you talk? Anger comes from ego. So if you want to work on your anger, you've got to work on your ego. You've got to humble yourself. And realize that everyone has something to contribute. Not everyone's out to get me, and there's room for improvement. So when it comes to anger, one second, you want to limit that to the farthest degree. Now, there must be some positive application of anger, or God wouldn't have created that trait. Like God's not like, yeah, take a bad trait, good luck with that. Right? It's got to be the some positive. So what's a positive application of anger? So the Gemara says, if a person, first of all, if they attack you physically, you need anger to fight back. Can't be we're not pacifists. If they attack your character, if your children do things that are dangerous to their life, you have to show anger. The kid runs to the street, 2-year-old, like, no, don't do that. Car's gonna hit you, make you into road pizza. You gotta, boom! Don't do that. You gotta use, it's an instructive, educational tool. That's what we're saying. So there's always something, but it's very, very limited where you can use your anger for. Anger, says the Orchat Tzadikim, which is a book written, which we're going to quote a lot of the next few weeks together, about character traits. He says anger causes a person to be stubborn. Things you normally, you've been into an argument, and suddenly you find yourself arguing and getting angry, or they don't even believe what you're saying. Actually, you don't even know what you're arguing about anymore. It's stubborn. Right? It gives you an kasher oref with the stubborn people. We have to watch out for that. Okay? And they won't admit the truth. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So how do you differentiate ego with self-confidence?
Very, very good. So I'm going to come to that another time. It's a great question. There's a big difference between good self-esteem, which is a good thing, and ego, which is not a good thing. And what's the main difference between the two? There's many differences. I'll just give you, both are a state of mind. but there's got to be a certain differences really in the way you apply it. And what is that difference? The difference is like this. Check this out. Humility means not, ugh, I'm nothing, I'm garnish, I'm useless. It's, I'm great. I'm great. I'm a great teacher, a great mother, a great doctor, a great business, whatever it is. But the skills I have were a gift from Hashem, and there's room for improvement. You're going to say that? You have it?
That's what I was
That's it. It's a gift from Hashem, and there's room for. I still have something to learn from. People of Gava, there's nothing to tell me that I can learn from. Right? Don't, I hear this a lot. Rabbi, I don't need to. I know this. Right? I know what to do. There's never room for. There's no gap of growth. That's ego. Self-esteem is, I am very good, but there's room for more.
I was gonna say, like, the things you were born with and the things you've gotten throughout your life, that if you accept that they're all from Hashem, you won't feel like, you won't feel like you won't be arrogant, because you'll know that like everything was just granted to you.
It's a
Even if
gift.
you worked very hard, there's a lot of people that work very hard and don't get to where you are. So you have to know that it's all like a gift.
A major difference. Says the Gemara, there are 3 ways to figure out a person's character. Right, your question, I'm going to come to it later. 3 ways to figure out a person's character. Kiss, kos, kas. Kiss, kos, kas. You heard that before? Very famous Gemara. What's kiss? Pocket. How you spend your money. We're on page 2. How people spend their money reveals a lot about them. What they spend the money on. How much tzedakah they give. Where they give tzedakah to. We're on page 2 at the top. Right? Where they give the tzedakah to. By the way, when you're dating, it's not a dating class, but everything comes to dating, right? And marriage, right? You say, you have no business how much they make. But which causes? Let's say you had $1 million, where would you give the money to? Right? How do you spend your money? What importance does money have in your life? Everyone has. They come with stuff they grew up with, and money becomes a part of that as well. Okay? So that's one aspect. Next is kos, which means drink. What they're like when they are drunk. Because that's when the truth comes out. Nichnas hayayin, yotza sod. In goes the wine. Now I'm not telling you to get drunk or get your boyfriend drunk to figure out what he's like. Right? I always say try to date over Purim, and then you get to see the real person, right? By the way, a side point, jokes aside, I've heard this a lot. Never get drunk on a date, ever. By the way, I'm telling you, because people suddenly, there was a guy I was counseling once, and I was dating a girl, and it was going well, 2-3 dates, and she started drinking too much. She started drinking too much on the date. The waitress spilled some wine. She went crazy. And he called me up and said, Rabbi, is that a red flag? I'm like, that's a deal breaker.
Really?
It's a deal, absolutely. It was a deal breaker. I didn't have to say him. He came to that decision himself. She got drunk, started cursing out the waitress, right? For making a little infraction. Yeah. Don't worry, he found someone else. I did his wedding, Baruch Hashem. Okay, number 3 is anger. What a person's like when they're angry reveals a lot. Shouting, screaming, breaking things, which by the way is asur. Right? I've done it in the past. It's not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Wait, so what's kas?
Kas is anger. Kiss, kos, kas.
Kas is cup, kiss is pocket.
Kiss is pocket, how you spend your money, and kas is anger. Kaas, that's today's topic. Yeah? Rashi actually asked this, by the way, look at Rashi's commentary on this. Fascinating. Rashi says, when it comes to the money thing, maybe when they get angry, they throw their money. So I thought, who's throwing their money? I think what Rashi's saying, if you want to get deep, is that you emotionally spend money when you're depressed and angry. Been there, right? So this is part of that as well. There's a very famous story I must tell you. In the, every girl who goes to seminary in Israel, those who went, but always hears this. It's a very famous Gemara. There's a story about a girl who learned this. Okay, in the class, they taught this Gemara of the kiss kos kas. So she's going on a date. So the guy comes to pick her up. You heard the story? I told you before. Gets in the car. They get to a traffic light. It's a red traffic light in Israel. Right? Stops. He just met her. She leans over, turns off the engine, takes the key out, throws it out the window. The guy's like, what is going on? This is crazy. He gets out of the car. You heard the story before? Gets out of the car, looking for he finds the car key, gets back in the car, turns it back on. It's a green light now. Obviously, all the Israelis have been honking him like crazy because it's Israel. As soon as you go from red to green, it's like, you know? So actually, in Israel, while it's still red, they're honking you. Like, why are you honking me? He goes, it'll be red soon. Get it, man? So anyways, he drives off, and he's like, what was that? She goes, I learned from my rabbi, I need to test you, see if you get angry. He goes, how did I do? She says, you passed. And he says, you failed. He turned around, dropped her back home again. I don't know if that story is true, but it's a great story. Says, yeah.
So are you saying it's how they handle anger or if they get angry?
Okay, very, very
They
good.
show their anger.
Everyone gets angry. That's why I started the story of Moshe Rabbeinu. Everyone's dealing with this. I don't care how old you are, I don't care what class, I don't care how long your beard is, I don't care how religious, right, kind of shit, loch batli. Everyone's dealing with this. Are some people more prone to anger? Naturally, yeah. We believe that. The Gemara says that certain people born under certain star signs have more anger. We know the people who are born under Mars, the Gemara tells us, are like blood. They like to see blood. As such people. Now, they have a choice. You can be a murderer, you can be a shochet, a doctor, you know, OBYN, I don't know what you want to do. Wherever you get your fix from. Okay? So it's up to you. So some people, not everyone's born with the same challenge. Some people, I deal with kids. I have 5 kids, 5 different personalities. And who says all the kids should be the same? People always say to me, I'm very different from my brother or sister. I'm like, of course you are. Why would you be the same? Even twins. Makes no difference. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Says the Mishnah in Perek Avot. Here's the answer to your question. Look at this. You are Machaven, the next piece of Torah. There are 4 types of people in the world. Forget the Russians and the French and the English. Forget that. Right? Forget Sephardi, Ashkenazi. Forget Persian, Syrian. Forget all that. 4 types of people. People get angry quickly and calm down quickly. People get angry slowly, but it takes a long time to calm down. They calm down slowly. People are quick to anger, but slow to calm down. People are slow to get angry and quick to calm down. That's your 4, right? Look at the language of the Mishnah. It's amazing. Look at this. What's the best of the 4? The one who is slow to get angry, but quick to calm down. Look what the Mishnah calls. The Mishnah, such a person is a chassid. That doesn't mean they walk around with a big furry hat on and a black kapota, right? They weren't a chassidim in those days. It means that these people are considered righteous individuals. But they're getting angry. It takes them a long time to get angry, and once they get angry, they're quick to get over it. The worst of them, quick to anger, slow to get over it. You know some people, right? You're angry, they get fight. One day, 1 week, I had one guy, true story, came up to me, I would say like a month ago, and he said, Rabbi, I have to say something. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm really angry with you. I'm like, I'm so sorry. What did I do? I don't like to make people angry. Right? He said, 2 years ago, I was like, 2 years ago? Yeah, he made a joke. You couldn't call me? 2 years you've been carrying this with you? What have you been doing with yourself? Get a social life. 2 years you were carrying this anger in your heart? I wanted to mention, I'm like, you should have told me much earlier. 2 years carrying this with you? I'm living in his head rent-free for 2 years. He wasn't Aquarius because we're quick to get over.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry if it's like backtracking a bit. With the anger thing, are you like? I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to like try to test him?
No. You're going to see, if that person gets angry, you're going to see what they're all about. It's an indicator whether they're working on themselves spiritually. That's what you're saying. Whereas I tell you, smack him on the head, get him angry, see how he handles it. You don't do that. Things are going to come up. Like when you date, things are going to come up. Right? How they treat other people. There are things that come up. By the way, I have a question on this. I have a question on this Mishnah. What's the big question on the Mishnah? What's the big question? Come on.
What's the best?
We know the best. Chassid. We know the worst. Rasha. We meet with the Pesach table, the Rasha. What's the big question?
How do you become the best?
Where's number 5? Person doesn't get angry. Doesn't exist. We're all dealing with this. You can decide where you end up over here. That's your choice. People say, I'm an angry person. It's no excuse. You can decide how you want to handle it. It's hard. As a parent, I know. My kids were designed, all kids are designed to drive their parents nuts. Oh, I can't wait for you to get to receive it there. And you're tired. And I'm like lying in bed. It's 11:30. I've had a long day of teaching, counseling, right? Giving some, working, and my door opens, bang, because my kids can't, or they knock and walk in. I'm like, when you knock, it's like, you meant to like wait for an answer, It's like, right? And 11:30. And why do my kids talk at like 11:30, 1 o'clock in my room when everything's dark and I'm asleep? Like it's 2 in the afternoon. Anyway, Emma, I'm like, I tell you, there's people lying here. They're like, yeah. Emma, come here. Shut up, Lawrence. She's talking. Says Orchat Tzadikim. Let's go. Page 3. Getting angry does a lot more. It doesn't affect you also emotionally. It also affects your spiritual growth. If you're a person who wants to grow spiritually, you're like, oh, I keep Shabbat, I keep kosher. People say this to me. Rabbi, I do all these things. I'm like, but you're a nasty individual. You're missing the whole point of Torah. By the way, it works both ways.
You say that all the time.
Yeah, I do say it all the time. Maybe not like that. Maybe not like that. But I was like, how can that person be religious if he cheats in business and he's nasty to his employees? We know we have 2 sets of dibrot. Those people who sat in my class at Yeshiva University know this. We have 2 dibrot, right? 2 tablets, the Asar dibrot. One of them, Ben Adam lamakom. Second, Ben Adam lachavero. What do I always say? Why are there 2 tablets, not 1 big tablet? Seriously. Well, God couldn't you have 1 big tablet with all these? Because they're separate, they're equal. So a person, it works both ways. You can't say, oh, Rabbi, I don't keep Shabbat. I'm not so good with kosher. I'm a nice person. I'm like, that's very nice. But there's another side of the tablets too. Right? We're a package deal. It's like, it ain't Costco. You know what I'm saying? You gotta that I leave behind. I bring 50 with me. Who cares? It doesn't work like that. There's 2 sides. By the way, just a quick question as a side point. I heard this from Rabbi Dr. Twersky. Alav Shalom, great tzaddik who died recently. He was one of my mentors, my gurus. He said, if this is so important, this whole working a character, why is there no mitzvah in the Torah to improve your character? What does it say? Be a nice person. Okay, it says be. Very good. Very, very good. You're in line. It's expected. What does that mean? Have you read a cookbook before? Anyone read a cookbook?
Yeah.
Some Sfadi Mel, I haven't. But I'm assuming that some of you picked up a cookbook in your lives. Every recipe always starts the same way. Turn the oven on to 350, take this ingredient, take the fish, or take the meat, take the flour, and make the thing. It never says, stage 1, buy an oven. Why not? Why not? It's expected. You can't do that. It doesn't write it down. So that was his answer. Alav Shalom. We're in his Shana, I think, still, right? Of his death. He said, it's so obvious. The fact that it's the beginning point. It's like saying, buy an oven. I know, if I want to be a spiritual person, but maybe it's not so obvious anymore. And we see the people, even religious people, acting like pigs. You're right? The way they act in the supermarket, the way they drive. I try so hard to drive. I'm a terrible driver. I drive like a terrible. It's not. It's expected to know. Maybe in our day and age, it's become not expected. Maybe there was a time in history, people, you act like a mensch, you act like a nice person. You had certain midot, you acted with kavod. You dressed with kavod. Think about your grandparents. I don't know any of your grandparents, right? Or if you're lucky to meet your great-grandparents. They acted differently, right? They always dress. Right? My grandfather, remember, no matter what it was, 3 in the afternoon, midnight, always had a tie on. Right? Me, I'm sitting around, as soon as I come home, shorts, t-shirt, like, food all over, right? It was a certain it was like expected. Imagine their parents before them. Right? They're still on the train with their legs open like that, trying to fill in as much space as they can. What happened? It's terrible. Terrible. Okay. It's also going to affect your spirituality. Hashem, whatever this means, does not want to hang out with people who get angry. Isn't that crazy? I'm just reading what it says over here. Anger prevents a person from having intent when he prays, and Hashem cannot rest himself on an angry person. You can see in the black, I'm not making this stuff up. I feel terrible. I get angry sometimes. My wife and kids, I go to shul, I'm like, what am I doing over here? Right? And it makes me think, and I go home and apologize. You cannot learn. How can you learn? How can you be open to learn if you're angry? In short, he says, a person who always gets angry cannot achieve anything unless you remove the kas, the anger, from your heart. Oh, we're going to come. We're going to look at it. But just talking about it helps. Okay. I don't know how long we have, but I mean another 5-10 minutes you can handle?
Yeah.
This crazy Persian English guy? Okay, fine.
Does this go into how you can?
We're going to try. We're going to look at a few things at the end here. Even talking about it helps, by the way. Even just reading this, like, I have room. There's room for acknowledging it. Thank you. That's the word. Yeah. The Gemara gives a very interesting connection. Anger is connected to avodah zarah, idol worship. Idol worship. Now, we don't have idol worship nowadays. Okay, we have American idol worship, but we don't have idol worship. But the Gemara says the desire for idol worship is then, if you don't have idol worship, you have anger. What a strange comparison. Anger, idol worship. What's the kasha? What's the connection? Why is the Gemara making that connection? Look on page 5. You see the Gemara inside. You're on it, sister. Look at you. Right? A person who tears their clothing in anger or breaks their possession or scatters their money. That's the Gemara. Scatters their money. You don't throw them money. They just spend it when they're angry, in rage. It's as though you are Oved Avodah Zarah. Wow, that's like number 2 of the 10 Commandments. That's really bad. Worshipping idols? That's a big comparison to make. What's going on with it? Why would that be? Why would the Gemara say it's as though you're worshipping idols? Well, let me ask you. What's the connection? You were saying something?
It's because when you're angry, you usually, if you're yelling at someone, you think they're doing something wrong, but really it's Hashem that's testing you. It doesn't come from them.
That's worth a... Can we add to that?
Yes, I was going to say it's because you're putting your faith in something that's not God.
I also have something else to add.
Please. You're putting faith in something that's not God. Very well said, Kimber.
It's related to Yetzer Hara. You're like feeding
Oh, very
your
nice.
inclination.
You're feeding it.
Yeah.
You feed, because Avodah Zarah was Yetzer Hara, which was there. It was a very strong Yetzer Hara. You're feeding that too. That's very... hold that for a second.
Wait, I thought I learned that.
Maybe you did. I don't remember everything I taught. It could be. It could be. It could be one of Haji's classes. It's all good. It goes like this. You see, when something happens to you, you're driving, and someone cuts in front of you, right? Road rage, big thing. Do you know how many thousands of people die from road rage every year? People literally you have to go online, right? And type in road rage, you'll see the craziest people do on the road, ramming people, following people, chasing people. They're in the supermarket, and it says 10 items or less. And there's Mrs. Goldberg with 10,000 items, but they're the same item, so she thinks it's one item. Right? It's 10,000 cans of soda, but it's only one item, really, right? And you want to... What you have to realize is, so it's very important, you have to realize the context. Everything that happens, Hakol b'dei Shemayim, Chutz mir Shemayim, Hashem has decided. She is not the reason this happened to you. You have to be a believing Jew in order to appreciate this point. She or he is not the reason this happened to you. Hashem wanted it to happen to you. Now, does that mean they're blameless? No. They volunteered for the position and they got it for whatever reason. They are unlucky. Right? Hashem allowed them to be the punisher that you receive this. But you getting angry with him or her for this thing is like listening to someone shouting at you on a microphone and then smashing the speaker that the noise comes out of. You gotta go to Hashem is the reason why this happened to you. There is no coincidence. And that's a very difficult pill to swallow. It takes years to really put this in your heads. Let me just plant it as a seed. Let me explain again. When things happen to us, we as believing Jews have to say, it's not random. There is no coincidence. Everything happens for a purpose. And me getting angry with this person makes no sense. Now, do I have to be, I forgive you, turn a blind eye, I turn the other cheek? It's not a Jewish concept. You should say to them, and the Rambam says, it's a mitzvah to say to this person, don't talk to me that way. Why do you act towards me that? That's a mitzvah. You should be like, I forgive you. If you're upset with a person, because you have to clear the air between you. And you have to go up to them privately, never in public, and go up to them. It's a mitzvah. The Rambam brings it down, Hilchot Deyot, and says, speak to that person and say, don't talk to me that way, don't act like that towards me. That you should do.
Isn't it even a sin not to do that?
It can because you hold the anger in your heart. And that itself is a problem for the Torah. Really, you're not. Well, just one piece of it. Sorry, just one little extra important piece of philosophy. You're not judged what's in your heart or your thoughts. You can think lashon hara. You can't speak it. You can think. We all think it. We all think that person's such a jerk, right? It happens, right? But you can't speak it. Once you speak it or act upon it, then you're in trouble for the act and the thought. Then the thought gets added in. So when it says, Al tisna et achecha b'levavecha, don't hate your brother, your fellow Jew, your fellow human in your heart, it means if you act upon it, you're going to be in trouble for that thought. Okay, by the way, you are rewarded for a thought and you tried to make something happen, it didn't happen. So for example, if you want to give tzedakah, you want to give charity, but you're prevented, it's as though you gave it. Machshava k'maaseh. But the opposite does not happen. Meaning, if you want to hurt someone and you're prevented, so you want to keep it inside your head, but you want to remove from your heart, because if it's there, you're going to act upon it eventually, and that's not going to be good. Are we clear of our categories over here? It's very important Jewish philosophy.
But I bet that's not good to have negative thoughts.
No, you should not. Oh, you have to work on it. 1,000%. And one of the ways is you have to realize this person is just, it's like me getting angry with a hammer, right? Which hit me on the, it doesn't make sense. Hashem has used this person, right? I'm not happy. And this person may be punished for being the person that allowed this to happen. But you have to remember, it came from Hashem. If you think it's this person, you're saying, I do not believe Hashem is the cause, you're an idol worshiper. Because you believe all these people, all these things have their own powers. That's avodah zarah. You get it? It's a deep thought. You had your hand up. Yeah.
By not saying lashon hara and keeping it inside, isn't that like not good? Because you're holding.
Better than saying it. No. Right. So you have to find a way to get rid of it. But it's better than not saying it. Better to keep it
How
inside.
do you get rid of it?
Okay. We're going to do a class on lashon hara near the end, but it's all related to this. Judging people favorably. We're going to do a class on how to judge people favorably. I think next week is going to be how to judge people favorably. We'll do the positive next week. Yeah.
What if the person you're like want to like pull aside and like not yell out, not let your anger get to them, like is not willing to listen?
Very, very good. You have to find the right time and the right way. You're expected to do it 3 times as the Rambam. After that, and if they don't forgive you for apologizing or they're not willing to accept the tochacha, you've done your job. It becomes their problem. But you've got to try. You've got to try to appease the person. I know people who've gone to great lengths to appease people. I could tell you crazy stories of people. I mean, you're adults, I'll tell you. I know people who spouses have cheated with other individuals and that person try to apologize to the spouse for doing that. It's not happened overnight. It's not stealing their candy. You know what I'm saying? It takes time, effort. You've got to put effort into it. I know people, listen to this, who keep money set aside just to be able to buy gifts or give gifts to other people to appease them from their anger. Imagine that. They have money they give to tzedakah, and they have, you know what? I allot in my mind or in a bank account $100. I've made people angry. I sometimes make jokes I shouldn't make in public. I work on that now. So, room for improvement, right? I work on them a lot harder now, especially on video all the time. People watch it. But one guy goes to me, you insulted me. I'm upset with my wife. I bought him a big sugar platter of candy. I think soften him up. Does he spend money on it? I don't want people angry with me. Soften him up. Why not? I don't want people walking around with cuss against me and my family. Yeah.
Just to clarify, if someone makes you angry, that's coming from Hashem. It's not.
You have to realize. No, there's 2 things. You have to realize the reason this thing happened to you, the car in front of you, it's Minut Shemayim. Right? The Gemara tells us everything that happens in this world happens for a reason. Every blade of grass.
To upset you.
They have to. You can speak to them, but you have to realize it's coming from Hashem. There's something I can learn. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get upset with them. You can talk to them.
Are they in the wrong?
They are in the wrong. Absolutely, they're part of that. They're not dismissed. I'll give you the classic example for this, by the way. The Egyptians, the Mitzrayim. Hashem said to Avraham Avinu, your descendants are going to be slaves to another nation. He never said who. The Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, are the one who volunteered for the position who took it. Pharaoh said, what are you blaming me for? Your God put you, you believe in God, he put you over here. He goes, yeah, but first of all, it didn't have to be this bad. Second of all, he didn't say who was going to, you did it. So they're in trouble. We still have to realize it's from Hashem. So it's like a double thing happening. You gotta think about it. You gotta think about it. This is tough, by the way, because when you're in the heat of anger, like I know people who do, like they walk in their anger thinking, Hashem wants this happen to me. It's very hard. It takes a long time. This is not overnight. It takes a lot of emunah, a lot of faith to reach this. Yeah.
So what were you saying before I was writing? You said if you apologize 3 times and you...
The master says, if you try to, if a person upsets you and you apologize a few times, then if you really tried a few times, then you may be patur. You've done your job. Don't take it and not to accept it. Yeah? Anger is also a slippery slope. It leads to all other things. I want to talk. I have to think. I have to filter in my head 1 second what I want to say. I'm an addictions counselor. Let's go with this route instead. I work with young people or addicts. I'm a counselor, official qualified counselor, and I used to work for organizations and help addicts, Jewish addicts, right? Like food addiction, big amount, alcohol, gambling, sex, all this stuff. There's one thing people in the addictions world know. You know what's going to lead you, and this will resonate with all of us because we're all dealing with stuff. The one thing that leads people to know they're going to act out on their addiction, I got angry that day. Alright? I get angry and they end up comforting themselves with that particular addiction. Anger is the door that opened things up for them to get involved in that thing. They always say that. Right? I was doing well, and so someone said it to me, I got angry, and then I was like, whatever. And they end up drinking again after not drinking for a month, a year, 5 years, whatever it is. Right? It's the door. That's the Chazal say, it's like a thief trying to break into your house. This is the Yetzer Hara piece you just mentioned a moment ago, Adriana. Thief wants to break into your house, right? You put locks on the door. He says, you get angry, it's like you left the lock open and they can walk straight in. The Yetzer Hara wants to come in all the time, knocking, let me in. Anger is a trigger. It's not just bad in of itself, it's a slippery slope, it's going to lead us to other stuff. This is one of the problems. It's like leaving the door open. Let's meet someone who had the opposite of anger, savlanut. And one of the greatest people was Hillel HaZaken. There's a great story I want to bring down about Hillel HaZaken. There were two people, the Gemara, great Gemara. Hillel was someone who had anger problems but worked on it. There were two people who made a bet they could make Hillel angry. You hear this? So they said, let's try to, I bet I can, I bet you can't. And they bet like 200 zuz, which is like vast amount of money. What did he do? He went to visit Hillel Erev Shabbat when he's in the bath. You know that feeling in the shower? The phone rings. But for some reason, as soon as I turn on the shower, I get in. But I need you. I'm like, I was walking around the house for 3 hours. Suddenly they need me all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? So they went Erev Shabbat when people are busy. And he called him out of the shower, and Hillel said, can I help you? And he says, yeah. Are you Hillel? He goes, yeah. He goes, I have a question. He says, why is it the heads of some people are shaped this way, and some people the heads are shaped that way? Some stupid question he was asking. So what Hillel didn't angry. Why are you wasting my time with your garbage? It's Erev Shabbat, I'm in the shower. He said, let me try to give him an answer. Maybe it's the way they give birth, a different way when they come out, the midwife. He went back in the shower. Back out the shower, same again. Why is it the feet of people are different shape? What are you asking me? Never got angry. He tried again and again and again. Hillel had savlanut. Eventually the guy said to him, are you Hillel? They call the great tzaddik of the Jewish. He goes, yeah. He goes, I hope most Jewish people are not like you. He said, why would you say that? Because you maybe lose 200 zuz. I lost a bet because of you. Savlanut. Patience. Says the Ramban, solution, it's hard. When you feel like getting angry, speak quietly. Speak quietly. You can't get angry when you're not shouting. It's like, I'm really angry. I'm so upset with you. Alright? You shout out!
So how do you be calm without the other person thinking that you're being passive?
That's a good question. Passive aggressive. Passive aggressive actually related to something we mentioned before, which is ego. That's where it comes from. No one likes to admit it. It's ego. Right? And I deal with this too. Because I'm a rabbi, I can't get angry too often, but I can get very chutzpah, get very passive aggressive. Right? There's room for, I don't think I'm perfect, there's room for improvement there, sister. It's tough. It's working on humility. which is a topic we're going to do a whole topic. I'm not going to give you every answer, every question tonight. There's room for there's work over here. 2-minute warning. Okay, we have 2-minute warning. It's connected to humility and connected to working in yourself. It's all working in yourself. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck with your parents. One day you're going to be stuck with your in-laws. Right? Even the best in-laws are going to drive you nuts. People you work with. I always say stay away from angry people, but sometimes you can't. You can't change them. I promise you cannot change them, but you can change yourself.
So do you like just speak in a nicer
He says, the Ramban says, Nachman is not Ramban. He wrote a letter to his children. He gave it to Ramban. You can read it. Many Siddurim printed at the back. Short letter, and he begins by saying this exact point. Always try to speak quietly, which I don't do, but he says, always try to speak quietly, and this will save you from anger, which he says is the worst trait that exists. So I started with the worst trait tonight. It's the Ramban. This is the letter of his kids. You know, my final words. Speak quietly to all people all the time.
Let's say you get angry. Is it like best to remove yourself from the situation and then deal with it once it's subsided?
Yes. Don't speak to a person b'shat ka'aso. Don't speak to a person when they're in the midst of their anger, and do not. And if a person's getting angry with you, speak calmly towards them. Yep. Again, every trait we look at here. I put it down. Page 10. Titna, hey, here. What's your name? Tina. Titnaheg tamid ledaber kol devrach benachat. On page 10. Always speak calmly to people, at all times. You'll be saved from anger. Speak quietly. Shehi midara. It is the worst midah. Lachti ben adam, to make people lead to sin. Wow. He opened his letter to his kids, his final testament, with those words. Humility. How did Moshe Rabbeinu work on his anger? He was humble. Actually, Moshe Rabbeinu was called the humblest person who ever stepped foot on the earth. And by the way, he's got to be the same person that says, I'm the greatest prophet that ever lived. He's got to say, because that's true, he has to speak Emet. So say, are you the greatest prophet? There's no prophet as great as me. And yet he's got to say, I'm the humblest person that ever lived. And the two are not contradictory. They can't be. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu, ish anav mod, mikol adam b'nei adama. More than anyone upon the entire earth. So work on humility is a part of it. Okay? Speak calmly, words spoken gently. Next week, we will, God willing, I think, do giving benefit of the doubt, which will be the continuation of this, which will help us work on anger too. Thank you all very much for coming to the first ever Learn It. We did a lot tonight. Wow. Thank you guys, a real pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Kol hakavod. Well done.